Moving, so you have to forgive the background. All right, it's early. I'm about to go train outside. I wanted to throw the headphones on and talking to the microphone just to share some ideas about our state of affairs as a country. And again, I like to do the holistic thing, so it's not just about physical fitness. This is about the consciousness of our country and, the well-being. And we've seen such a disconnect between the American people and our politicians over the years. And when I say years, I mean my entire lifetime. I grew up listening to my parents, listening to their friends, listening to my peers and their parents, our elders talk about how our politicians never seem to serve our interests one way or the other. They can pass bills, they can do what they do, but notice that they put other things into these bills that give them the ability to subvert the U.S. law in many cases. And they serve the best interest of other people. There are behind the scenes deals that are made that go beyond what legislation proposes. This is called a private position by a politician. Hillary Clinton says it openly. It's important for a politician to have a public and a private position. Those are two separate positions. I do understand to a certain extent, when you're dealing with somebody with a lot of capital, somebody who's willing to invest in the country, well, there's got to be a return on investment. I get that. This is corporate capitalism. This is what we do in America. But there's a disconnect. And, when the people aren't able to ask their politicians questions directly, who do we rely on? We rely on the media. And our media is not representing the people. And, I've spent years of my life researching these things. It's been a journey to see how this government functions and operates, in public, behind closed doors, the people that they represent actually. We've lost touch with the politicians and the people who are supposed to represent us and ask these questions. The media have been compromised. All of them. You want to talk about independence? Being independent? It's taken independent investigation because human beings are feeling like something isn't right. It's called intuition. It's a sense that we're blinded from with consumerism. I'm making that statement, and you can make a claim otherwise. That's fine. That's my opinion based on my experience, my research, my observations. I try to go back and reflect and use wisdom, use the reflection of the past in the present to make better decisions, to live in an even state of emotional being. And when you find it difficult to do, like your intuition's telling you something's not right, we're kind of like, we're living, something's not right. We're not sleeping well. We're anxious. We're depressed. We're drug addicted. Well, among many other things, all right? And it keeps us kind of focusing on trouble, right? And so this is where people with that intuition, they sense trouble. They sense that, something's not right. I'm deviating from my path here, and it just doesn't seem normal for me. And this is independence, true independence, because now you have the independent mind trying to become a voice for American people, regardless of race, regardless of where you come from. It doesn't matter at this point. It does not matter. Things are not as they seem. So We've lost representation. Corporations have more power in our elections. They may utilize the tax code. They may go abroad. They may avoid paying a lot of taxes. Meanwhile, the cost of living for the average person increases. So if corporations have more say in our government and we can't question our leadership directly with professional, accurate reporting by the media, do we actually have representation in this upcoming election? And have we in previous elections? We have to ask ourselves these questions. Malfeasance has occurred from the 2016 election, leading up to that election, that many people still are not aware of. And you need to be. It's very important that you understand how things operate. This is transcendence. This is an opportunity. We have so many people who now are coming. It's coming to the light. You know, it's been exploited. The weakness of our, of this world, and how our consciousness is subverted for a better, or not a better, for some other agenda that's not our own. So when we put a person into office, to do things that benefit us, yeah, we do live in the top 90 or top 1% of the world in terms of consumerism, access to everything, our way of life, basically having homes. We live better than most people in this world. I won't complain. However, it's important to understand that we as Americans, if we are to believe in our constitutional rights, and I do believe in the Constitution, that we start using this, what's been exploited here, as an opportunity to gain a foothold, so as to how we can to gain equity, yes, but to have a place at the table. Because I don't believe that collectively the average American has had a place at the table for a long time, especially in the last 20 years, you could argue. If you go back past 9/11 and they say the world will never be the same, well, America went right back into its consumerism. We grew accustomed to war, which we had been for decades prior. And now here we are. You can go to war on TV, like live right now. If I wanted, I could download a video game and play it and trick my AR-15 out if I want. I'm not getting into that. But we have lost representation. And we've also lost a lot of our liberties. We've lost a lot of our freedoms. We think that we have this freedom on the surface. The surface is everything external, all right? This is the external illusion that's meant to be, according to something else. Everything's peaceful on the outside, but there's evil and turmoil that subverts who we are and supposed to be in this universe, man, and on this planet. And it infiltrates your mind, and you end up living externally. You take everything away from me around me, and there's nothing but me. You take the clothes off my back. You take the pigment from my skin. There is a soul. And now, that's just a being with a soul that has memories. If I have memories, that has shaped who I become, my experience. Whether it be traumatic, whether it be happy and blissful, we've had all of it, right? As human beings, we experience everything, and that becomes a part of who we are. And we use that wisdom to implement in the present so as to lead to a more successful future. So we can live in the present. But all of this external stuff, it's meant to keep us from the dependence that's been created by the government to the American people. Not just the American people. It's important to study world history. It's important to study philosophy. If you go into not just philosophy and world history, but other world governments, all right, ideologies. I hear people say Marxism. I hear people say socialism, communism, democracy, social democracy, 3 different types of social democracy. You'll hear me say central banking system, Federal Reserve, World Bank, central bank, interest, fractional reserve lending. I'll say all kinds of things. It's important to know these things. It really is. Because if you are to understand and believe, people are not, they're taught to not believe certain pieces of information. And it inhibits them from understanding, and breaking free, transcending, everything externally that's distracting you from the self, from the truth. That's that's what happens with ultra consumerism, as I've come to find out and think about, and I draw that conclusion more so every day. Consumerism is external. It blinds us from our truth. That's a general statement. That's something that's an entire different, podcast or whatever you want to call what I'm doing. I'm just like a vlog or whatever, a journal. I could spend another podcast just talking about that. So you either choose to ignore that frequency of information, or you let it infiltrate past the ego. The ego fragments a lot of information. That's another topic to get into. I make these statements, and if you disagree with them, that's fine. That's great. That's excellent. Then let's have the conversation about it. I'm making a statement. I can get into why. This would be hours long. This would be days long, probably, knowing me. And I wouldn't stop. You would just have to feed me. I might have to get a couple hours of sleep. Although I've pulled all-nighters. I don't like to. So we ignore information, our egos, as I mentioned. I'm making this statement. This is what I believe. That the ego blinds or fragments information that we either receive or don't into our consciousness, and we can decipher it. Remember, look, there's going to be a lot of crazy information, but it's interesting that we're labeling something crazy, just like we label others guilty until proven innocent now, instead of innocent until proven guilty. We label them crazy or conspiracy or whatever the case. And then you never follow up. You make that accusation, or that, you make that claim, and then you're not going to follow up and investigate why it's crazy, or how crazy it actually is or isn't. Many people don't do that. You are programmed to call it crazy. That's another podcast that we could do as well. All these ideas for little topics. You have to start breaking these things down. We hear in society, all of these people, we have so many people, who are transcending, and I like to call it elevating above the mainstream of consciousness. So you see all of the people in the mainstream of consciousness going with the flow. You do your own individual thing, but you're going with the flow. And when you elevate out of it, you now are swimming against the current. It takes more energy to do. It takes a lot of thinking power. It takes a lot of time and effort, right? So you have a lot of people doing this and really bringing to light our consciousness, with today's access to information. It's really interesting. And we have to start breaking these things down to understand them. Because it's easy to get frustrated with folks who aren't willing to listen. And I get ridiculed daily. Ridicule and indignation. And I look back and I see myself mirroring it sometimes. Like this would be a long time ago, some time ago. And you realize that it's just best not to say as much. Just to sit back and see how people are feeling and listen. People don't take time to listen. So you take some time. There's turmoil in the country. I listen. I talk to a few people. I'm always engaging people about a lot of topics openly. And it's actually good. It's edgy, but it's good conversation to have, man. It absolutely is. So we need to start breaking these things down so that our fellow brother and sisters to the left and right of us, our next door neighbors who we've been upset with, we can communicate with. It's not the end of the damn world. It just isn't. And one day when the end of my world comes, I hope to be forgiven by the Lord. I hope to serve the Lord in heaven. One day. So I have to live in the frequency of that life, of that dimension, that heaven. Whatever heaven that is for you. It doesn't matter what you believe in. You don't have to believe in anything. Religiously, I don't care. You are a tension point in this universe, and that's what I'll say to everybody. We share this universe. We have no choice, but at the same time, it's not a terrible thing. It's not a bad deal to make a deal with another human being. Pay attention if you live in America. Pay attention to the laws that are being written. Understand the relationship between the United Nations, NATO, and the U.S., but our allies as well. What influence do we have? What influence do they have? We have to start asking ourselves questions and then having the conversations. In order to have a conversation, you have to understand that you may offend somebody or be offended yourself. This is where we have to be conscious of the ego. We have to be aware that that's a program for us to keep us from receiving somebody else's information, no matter how painful it may be. I'm guilty of it. Man, I'm guilty. I try not to be. I try to be conscious and mindful of it. It's hard because we as Americans have been traumatized with propaganda and a bunch of bullcrap. We go to war after war after war. They being the politicians, serve somebody else's interests instead of ours, and we suffer the consequences for their immorality. We're sick. We're upset. We're sleepless in Seattle or Portland. We're sleepless everywhere. Get some damn sleep. Stop sleeping on the couch. Start learning a little bit about history, man or woman. If you're a man or woman, start going to bed earlier. Start eating earlier. Start getting some damn sleep. And if there's an issue in your life, have some courage and confront it. This is why we've independently began to confront our politicians and the people that they represent. And they do not like it, do they? Whose lives have been in turmoil? Ours or Nancy Pelosi? Her freaking fridge was stopped. Not to make it too political. I don't want to take a stance, man. But damn, dude, you don't come in with a big freezer full of damn ice cream and say you're going to eat fucking sugar during COVID, being sedentary, being locked indoors. You don't show a freezer full of sugar. Dairy's one thing, cholesterol and fat are another. Cholesterol's not a terrible thing. much of our body consists of cholesterol. Without cholesterol, we are dead for many, many, many reasons. Fat is good. We need fat for many things. We use it as a source for energy. That's just one. I talk about beta oxidation in my other material for exercise physiology, because that's what I do. That's my love. That's my passion. But you don't do these type of things. And on top of that, doesn't it kind of show like how out of touch, regardless of who you are? This is just my independent mindset. I try to be independent with these people. And I could go the other way. Oh, I could go the other way. And we will. I'm going to start speaking my mind and what I believe to be rigid, common sense, being in touch with the self, being able to receive information, be willing to listen regardless of who it is. All right. I had a debate about colorism. I didn't even know what colorism was. Now, because I'm being general with this little episode, I'm not going to explain colorism. I want you to look it up. Yes, I can explain it. Go explain it. Or go explain it for yourself. Be able to explain it for yourself by learning about it. Colorism. We have different shades of the color of our skin. So if you're African American, you may be a light-skinned African American. You may be a dark-skinned. Something like that. That's an example. That's the example I was given. And that there is discrimination. Okay? I had heard of this. I didn't know they called it colorism. But I had heard of this and I never bought it. It happens in Venezuela as we speak. You want to talk about a racist situation? Venezuela. You have light-skinned and dark-skinned Venezuelans. And they don't like each other. That's in a nutshell. That's what I'm going to tell you. It's something like that. Look into it. India has an issue with race right now. Isn't that funny? What's the guy's name? Emoti? I spoke with a doctor on campus about 6 months ago. Well, it would have been 6 months. Whenever this COVID thing first started, but before they locked everything down, I spoke with a doctor who is of Indian descent. He's been in America for, 20 years, however long. Older gentleman. He's in his 60s. He comes in, he'll do his resistance training at the end of the night. So he enjoys the conversation that he has with myself and one of our other coworkers that stay behind. And he speaks about this issue in India, and it's really interesting. And that's all I'll say about it. It's important to read these things. You have to start taking time. We have to start organizing ourselves. There's chaos abroad. There's chaos within the system, with everything happening, and that creates chaos in our lives. And I think in order for us to, in the long run and in the future, have a place at the table to ensure our safety and health, because it doesn't seem like we're being very protected. We being the working class and middle class people. Just yesterday, for example, there was a hearing with the big tech giant leadership. And the majority of the politicians that were participating in asking these people questions, it's not the same Congress that I've seen for the last 4 years. They were apologizing and bending over backwards for these CEOs, specifically Amazon, Mr. Bezos. When asked if one of the companies that works for Amazon, that Amazon works directly with and pretty much controls. Actually, yeah, I'll leave a link. I'm gonna post that in this video. I'll leave it at the end. As a matter of fact, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to add the video. I've already edited it. What I've been doing is I've been editing little videos, and I'll send them to like-minded people. I'd like to start sending them to other folks, and I've been trying to find ways to edit the videos so that I can engage people who aren't seeing it my way. I want to be respectful in that way. I don't want to I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings necessarily, by also understanding that it will be necessary to have that conversation. It's going to have to be had. You're going to have to come out and stop ridiculing and start providing facts and having an honest, respectful, and intellectual conversation. The time for ridicule's just about over. So anyway, Jeff Bezos is asked by this guy, this Congress person, is it true that this company that works directly for Amazon, this company that helps starting or entrepreneurs with their new startups, with their data, with their information, they're taking all of that stuff. Is it true that they're creating competitive products using the private data of those entrepreneurs? That is a serious accusation and question. And you have to hear Bezos' response. I want you to hear it in his own words. Because not only does he apparently have no awareness of such thing, but he's also cut off and then apologized and bent over backwards to apologize to ensure that Mr. Bezos wasn't offended. When the congressman cuts him off and doesn't allow him to expand on the answer he was providing, which was that he's not aware. There you go. So I'll leave you with that. The video is going to be at the very end. Great ideas today. I'm excited about the day. It's a hot one, and I just spoke my mind for the day, so I feel really, really great about that. And I'm going to go ahead and download this. I'll add the video, the little snippet now. Keep in mind, when you see this video, go watch the video for yourself in its entirety. It's a lot. Spend a Saturday looking at it, man. You need to get involved. I don't care if you drink a beer, do whatever you do. But man, you better be learning. You better be spending some time absorbing information, man. It's that time. We have an opportunity to shape ourselves in our society, right? Don't take it out of context. It's a minute and a half long, roughly. Maybe a little under 2 minutes, I think. When you see this video, all right, go look at it for yourself into context. Put it into context for yourself. All right, with that said, here's a video. Jeremy signing off for the day. Stay motivated. Stay hydrated. It's hot. And be active. Have a good one.
But we've also heard that not just with respect to the marketplace, but Amazon's cloud computing arm, AWS, the notion that that computing arm essentially identifies startups' best technologies and rolls out replica products and services. So, Mr. Bezos, does Amazon use confidential information that companies share via AWS to build competing services?
No, sir, not that I'm aware of. AWS does often, they do keep expanding their services. AWS started, 15 years ago. We invented this entire category.
Let me just clarify that, Mr. Bezos. I appreciate that. Sorry, I apologize for interrupting. But last week, one of Amazon's former engineers posted online that he and his team, quote, proactively identified growing business